A Chilean Navy helicopter captures a dark object flying over Antarctic waters. Infrared cameras show heat pouring from the craft. But radar says nothing is there. The footage goes through 2 years of investigation, and experts still label it unidentified aerial phenomenon. That wasn't the first sighting, and it definitely wasn't the last. So here's the real question. Why does the most isolated place on Earth have the highest number of unexplained aerial encounters ever reported by governments? Secret bases you're not allowed to fly over, scientists who vanish, and evidence of life, unlike anything found anywhere else on this planet, locked beneath 2 miles of ice. If someone wanted to hide proof that we're not alone, Antarctica is exactly where they'd put it. And that mystery didn't start recently. It goes all the way back to the first man who tried to explore the unknown South. Admiral Richard E. Byrd was one of the first explorers to reveal Antarctica to the modern world. Between 1928 and 1955, he led several missions across the continent. But according to some claims, Byrd once described seeing strange white entities moving intelligently beneath the ice. We still don't know what he really encountered down there. But ideas began to form. Maybe Antarctica is not as empty as we think. Things became even stranger after 1959, when dozens of powerful nations signed the Antarctic Treaty. Officially, it was created to protect peaceful research. But why would rival countries suddenly agree to lock down an entire continent? Why extreme secrecy around a place filled with nothing but ice? Today, Antarctica is one of the most restricted locations on Earth. Huge areas are completely off limits. According to pilots, some zones are even marked as dangerous no-fly areas. When aircraft accidentally approach them, radios fail and navigation systems go crazy. Many believe these warnings are not about safety, but about keeping people away from something hidden below. Some believe the restrictions are there to prevent us from discovering underground structures or unidentified technology buried deep under the ice. And every time a satellite captures something unusual, like the pyramid-shaped mountain seen in 2016, the official explanation arrives fast. Just a natural formation. But many aren't convinced. Some believed it was evidence of an ancient civilization or alien construction. All of this secrecy led many to believe that Antarctica isn't just frozen wilderness, but a frozen cover-up. Why else would the entire continent be so heavily restricted? According to some theories, the real reason is hidden out of sight. Massive underground bases buried beneath the ice. Bases that might not be human at all. So, what is really down there? It all began with rumors of a secret Nazi base at the end of World War II. Official records say the expedition was only about studying whaling routes. But many believe the Nazis discovered something far more unusual. Something they tried to claim before anyone else even knew it existed. And if humans could build hidden bases in the most dangerous place on Earth, what could an advanced non-human civilization have done there long before us? This idea opened the most controversial theory of all, that Antarctica hides massive alien bases, deep underground complexes protected by miles of ice, still active in the present day. And the strange part, some people say they've already found evidence. The first major proof comes from a man who believes he discovered a massive alien base using satellite images of Antarctica. While exploring Google Earth, he spotted what looks like a giant structure hidden beneath the ocean near the coast of the continent. To him, the sharp angles and straight edges do not resemble natural ice or rock. They appear engineered, like walls belonging to an enormous underground complex. He argues that this structure could be an ancient base that is now completely submerged. And if that's true, someone had to build it thousands of years ago. Some believe this could be a hangar large enough for an alien spacecraft. The next piece of evidence comes from another online UFO researcher. He spent years studying satellite images of Antarctica and claimed he discovered multiple alien outposts hidden in the most remote locations on Earth. By analyzing Google Earth photos frame by frame, he said he saw shapes that resembled UFO craft and even strange figures moving across the ice. He released a 12-minute video highlighting these anomalies, or what he believed were entrances, craft silhouettes, and shadows that looked too deliberate to be natural. His viewers pointed out that the structures he found appeared in areas where civilians aren't allowed to travel, raising even more suspicion. Skeptics quickly responded. They said the shapes were nothing more than rocks, cracks, and pixel glitches, the kind of illusions our brains create when we expect to see something unusual. Scientists call this pareidolia, the mind recognizing familiar patterns in random landscapes. But others argue that pareidolia cannot explain why these shapes show up repeatedly in restricted zones, or why they look so much like artificial structures. The next mystery comes from two strange cave openings discovered in the mountains of Antarctica using Google Earth. At first glance, they look like dark doorways carved into the ice. But according to UFO hunters, these aren't just caves created by weather. They believe these are entrances, access points leading deep underground, possibly to a hidden military base, or even an alien outpost. What made this discovery even more fascinating is what appears right beside one of the openings. Viewers noticed the shape of a perfect round disc resting on the snow, as if a craft had landed or was preparing to lift off. What might be the strangest thing in Antarctica is the existence of a very, unusual waterfall. Hidden in Antarctica's McMurdo Dry Valley, it pours out of the Taylor Glacier, and it is bright red. Scientists say the red color comes from iron deep beneath the ice reacting with air, a simple chemical reaction. But the place itself raises far more questions than answers. For starters, the liquid that flows out has been locked away from the world for millions of years, without sunlight, oxygen, and contact with anything on the surface. And yet, something down there is still active. Some believe that Blood Falls may be a waste outlet connected to a hidden facility far below the ice. According to conspiracy theorists, if an alien base existed underground, it would need a way to release heat, chemicals, and other byproducts. This idea has led many to one shocking possibility, that beneath Taylor Glacier lies a sealed laboratory built long before humans arrived here. A place where unknown intelligence has been working in total isolation, hidden from the surface and still operating today. According to scientists, there are indeed unusual hot zones scattered across Antarctica. Those are areas where the ice melts far faster than anywhere else on the continent. This alone is strange, because Antarctica is supposed to be a land of eternal ice, a place where nothing should generate heat from below. Yet these warm spots keep appearing in satellite images, forming perfect shapes and concentrated patches deep inside restricted regions. Scientists claim that natural geothermal activity might be responsible. But some researchers argue that this explanation doesn't match the pattern. The melting looks too organized, almost engineered. That has led many to believe these zones could be located directly above hidden structures and secret bases buried deep beneath the glaciers. If what you've heard so far surprised you, wait until you hear this. For decades, people working in Antarctica have come forward with claims that sound almost impossible. But their stories share one strange detail. They all describe seeing something that shouldn't exist. One of the earliest and most famous accounts comes from a man identified only as Brian, a former US Navy flight engineer who served in Antarctica during the 1980s and 1990s. His story spread widely online in the mid-2000s and quickly became one of the continent's most discussed mysteries. According to Brian, his crew was once redirected mid-flight after accidentally crossing into a restricted zone near the South Pole. While flying over that area, they saw what he called a glowing silver structure emerging from the ice. He claimed it was large enough for a military transport plane to enter. Brian said that later, when the crew returned to base, they were warned never to talk about what they had seen. In his interviews with investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe, he also mentioned that scientists stationed near the site had gone missing for days and returned terrified, refusing to explain what happened. His testimony remains unverified, but to many believers, it felt like the first inside look at something extraordinary taking place under the ice. Years later, new whistleblowers began to appear, each adding new pieces to the mystery. Among the most talked about is Eric Hecker, a contractor who worked for Raytheon at the South Pole Station. Hecker claims the base operates advanced energy systems capable of interacting with satellites and possibly even spacecraft. In many interviews, he described strange underground installations, secret research programs, and what he believes to be directed energy weapons being tested in Antarctica. According to Hecker, the technology used there is decades ahead of what the public knows, and the real purpose of the South Pole Station is not scientific research but experimentation with unknown power sources. These stories might sound far-fetched, but they have been amplified by a surprising number of public figures showing interest in the continent. One of them was astronaut Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon. In 2016, Aldrin made an unexpected trip to Antarctica. Officially, it was part of a cultural and scientific visit, but only days later he was evacuated due to a sudden medical emergency. Soon after, a tweet appeared on his account saying, "We are all in danger. It is evil itself." The post was quickly deleted, and representatives said it was not written by Aldrin. Still, screenshots spread across the internet. What could he have seen down there that left such an impression? Also, thousands of miles north of Antarctica's mainland lies Bouvet Island, a small volcanic island belonging to Norway. It is often called the most isolated place on Earth, more remote even than Area 51. Surrounded by violent seas and covered in ice, it's considered nearly impossible to reach. In 1964, a British Royal Navy ship, HMS Protector, visited the island to study its coastline. When the team landed, they found something completely unexpected: a lifeboat sitting in a lagoon, half submerged in icy water. There were oars, a barrel, and a few supplies scattered nearby, but not a single trace of any crew. No footprints, no remains, and no records of a missing expedition. 2 years later, when another team returned, the boat was gone. The mystery of Bouvet Island has puzzled researchers for decades. The island's isolation makes it an unlikely place for accidents or casual visits. Some believe it was left behind by a Soviet whaling crew in the 1950s. Others see it differently. To them, the abandoned boat might have belonged to a human expedition that stumbled onto something it was never meant to find. And its location, halfway between Antarctica and South Africa, makes it an ideal midpoint for operations that need complete secrecy. So, who knows, right? And Antarctica's mysteries don't stop with classified bases or military whistleblowers. Some of the most unsettling encounters come from the early days of exploration, long before satellites and secrecy. One of the strangest mysteries is known as the third man phenomenon. Explorers under extreme stress have often reported an invisible presence walking beside them, guiding them towards survival. The most famous incident happened in 1916, when legendary explorer Ernest Shackleton crossed the mountains of South Georgia with 2 companions. They were starving, freezing, and exhausted, yet all 3 later admitted they felt a 4th figure marching with them. Shackleton wrote that he was certain we were 4, not 3. This eerie experience even inspired lines in T.S. Eliot's famous poem, The Wasteland. Were they hallucinating under stress, or did Antarctica assign them a silent guardian? But not every presence felt on the ice seems friendly. Throughout the 20th century, explorers often stayed in small wooden huts left behind from older expeditions. These structures look frozen in time, books left open, tools neatly arranged, as if the crew stepped outside and might return any minute. Inside, men reported hearing whispers, knocks on the windows, and footsteps outside in the snow. At Cape Royds, members of a scientific team were convinced they heard voices calling out during the night. Even Sir Edmund Hillary, the first man to conquer Everest, once opened the hut door and swore he saw Shackleton himself standing inside, welcoming him. Were these simply symptoms of isolation? Or could they be signs that someone not human is also present on this frozen continent? All of this leads us to the strange lights seen in the skies above Antarctica. From the 1960s to the present, there have been multiple official sightings, each leaving experts with more questions than answers. The first major event came in 1965, when personnel at several Argentine Navy bases, including Deception Island, Lorry Island, and Esperanza, reported seeing what they described as flying discs. These glowing white objects moved across the horizon at incredible speeds, following a parabolic path from east to west. Witnesses said the discs emitted intense light and even caused magnetic disturbances in their instruments. What made the report so compelling was that the sightings happened at different bases hundreds of miles apart, without communication between them. The Argentine Navy launched an official investigation. At the time, the Cold War was in full swing, and the possibility of secret Soviet or American aircraft couldn't be ruled out. But when radar checks came back empty, the story shifted from military concern to scientific mystery. Years later, researchers proposed that the sightings might have been meteors, satellites, or even bright stars. Still, those who were there swore that what they saw was no ordinary celestial event. Then came 1976. The British Antarctic Survey, conducting radar studies across Graham Land and the Weddell Sea, began to detect strange anomalies deep under the ice. Officially, these readings were labeled as geological irregularities and variations in rock density and magnetic fields left over from the breakup of ancient continents. But the unusual patterns drew attention for another reason. They appeared in symmetrical shapes, unlike anything caused by natural processes. Researchers at the time dismissed the odd reflections as interference caused by ice crystals, but in UFO circles, they became known as the Antarctic radar anomalies. By the 1990s, sightings moved from the ground to space. In 1994, astronauts aboard NASA's Endeavour shuttle on mission STS-68 recorded unusual glowing orbs above the South Pole. The footage showed multiple lights drifting across the dark curve of Earth. Some viewers claimed the objects changed direction or pulsed with heat. NASA explained the phenomenon as ice crystals or space debris reflecting sunlight, common occurrences during orbital missions, yet many remain unconvinced, noting that the orbs appeared to move in coordinated patterns, unlike floating debris. For believers, it was evidence that whatever was happening in Antarctica extended beyond the planet's surface. But the most striking modern case emerged in 2018, when the Chilean Navy declassified a video filmed in 2014 by a helicopter crew flying over the Drake Passage. Captured using a high-grade infrared camera, the video showed a dark, elongated craft releasing what appeared to be a plume of heat or gas. The object emitted no signal, no radar return, and moved independently of the wind. Attempts to contact it failed. The footage was analyzed for 2 years by the Chilean government's CEFAA agency, which included experts from the Air Force, Navy, and scientific community. Their conclusion? The object was an unidentified aerial phenomenon, a term reserved only when all conventional explanations are ruled out. What makes this case remarkable is that it's one of the few times a national military openly admitted that an aerial object over its territory and near Antarctic waters remains unexplained. The video's release reignited global interest in the region. Why are so many unidentified objects seen near the southern polar zone, one of the most restricted and least accessible regions on Earth? And this is where the story starts to get even more interesting. For years, satellite images of Antarctica have been quietly fueling one of the most persistent modern mysteries. Ordinary users scrolling through Google Earth have stumbled upon shapes, trails, and objects in the snow that seem anything but natural. The story first gained worldwide attention in 2015, when a Russian researcher named Valentin Degtyarev claimed to have found the wreckage of a massive disc-shaped object hidden beneath the Antarctic ice. Using Google Earth coordinates, he pointed to what looked like the half-exposed rim of a saucer, measuring roughly 200 feet wide and about 40 feet high. In his post, he described it as a flying machine among the frozen ice in the most classic UFO shape. The satellite image, dated February 15, 2012, showed a gleaming oval shadow stretching across the snow, as if something had skidded to a halt after impact. Soon after, more digital explorers began searching the same area near the remote region known as Willie Field Road, and what they found made the mystery even deeper. In late 2015, a new set of Google Earth images surfaced, showing what appeared to be 4 tank-like vehicles lined up near the supposed crash site. Their formation and direction seemed too deliberate to be random. The tracks in the snow led directly toward the object's position, creating the impression of a guarded perimeter. Some observers suggested that a recovery or containment operation might have taken place there. The vehicles appeared to be roughly 70 feet long, far larger than any conventional tank, but the image resolution left much to interpretation. By 2017, another supposed crash site had captured public imagination. Again, Valentin Degtyarev appeared at the center of attention, this time pointing out a 1,900-foot-long shape partially visible through melting snow. He claimed this was not just a fragment, but the full body of an enormous alien craft, so large it could only have been buried for centuries. The coordinates led to a remote, mountainous zone, where the ice seemed to have fractured in a smooth, oval outline. For many who studied the image, the edges looked too perfect to be formed naturally, giving the impression of a submerged metallic hull. In the following years, similar anomalies continued to appear. Among the most talked about was a saucer-shaped object on Two Hummock Island, shared by online researchers in early 2024. According to the coordinates, the shiny circular structure seemed to rest at the base of a ridge. The object's reflective surface and nearly perfect roundness made it stand out sharply against the white snow around it. Some users described it as a small craft parked for exploration, suggesting it might have been intentionally left there. The theory expanded into speculation about Pleiadian visitors, claiming the craft was in stasis, waiting for retrieval by a larger ship. Whether or not those claims hold any truth, the satellite imagery itself remains unmistakably curious. Then there is the South Georgia Island image, which many say resembles a large craft that skidded across the ice and left a long trench behind. The shape at the end of the trench is bright, solid, and distinctly separate from the terrain. A small circular form contrasting sharply with the glacier's natural lines. To some, it looks like a huge object that struck the mountain and slid for hundreds of meters before stopping. The surrounding ice patterns seem disturbed, as if compressed by an immense impact. But if you still somehow don't believe something strange is happening in Antarctica, here are two discoveries that might change your mind. Let's start with a rock that didn't come from Earth. In December 1984, a team of scientists exploring the Allen Hills region of Antarctica stumbled upon a small greenish stone later named Allen Hills 84001. What made it extraordinary was its origin. This meteorite came from Mars. According to scientists, it was blasted off the Martian surface by an asteroid impact roughly 17 million years ago and landed on Earth around 13,000 years ago. But its story took a dramatic turn in 1996 when NASA researchers announced something that shook the scientific world. Under a powerful electron microscope, they found what looked like microscopic fossils, tiny worm-like structures buried inside the rock. The scientists proposed that these could be the remains of ancient Martian microorganisms, preserved for billions of years. The announcement made global headlines. Even President Bill Clinton held a televised speech, calling it a historic step in the search for life beyond Earth. For a moment, humanity stood at the edge of confirming we were not alone. Later studies would argue that the formations could be created by natural processes, but the possibility never fully disappeared. Some researchers still believe the meteorite holds genuine traces of life, and many UFO theorists took it as evidence that life from Mars might already be here. Now, if that sounds unbelievable, wait for the next part. In 2016, another story caught the internet by storm. Reports began circulating that a team of archaeologists had unearthed 3 elongated skulls deep within the Antarctic ice. The supposed discovery was said to come from a site called Lapai, where researchers allegedly uncovered ancient remains with large stretched craniums completely different from human anatomy. Some claimed they were the first human remains ever found in Antarctica. Others believed they were not human at all. According to the reports, the team's leader, a man named Damian Waters, described the skulls as unlike anything ever seen. He supposedly told journalists, "This will redefine our view of mankind's history as a whole." Conspiracy researchers quickly connected these skulls with similar finds in Peru and Egypt, where elongated heads have long fueled speculation about ancient visitors from the stars. Skeptics questioned the authenticity of the discovery. No official museum has ever confirmed the skull's existence, but the story refuses to die. Many argue that the very idea of alien remains found in Antarctica fits too neatly with decades of rumors about hidden bases, crashed ships, and frozen relics beneath the ice. What do you think is really hidden down there? Ancient civilizations, lost technology, or something not from this world at all? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more. And if you want to dive even deeper into the secrets of Antarctica, watch this video next. Keep your minds open, and until we meet again,